Some of you, this might be a brand new thing. You've never buzzed your lips before. I would say the thing you want to go for is just get a clear sound versus, right? Think of like being in a car. If you want to go from 5 miles an hour to 10 miles an hour, you don't hop into a 6 mile an hour car and then get out and hop into a 7 mile an hour car. That is not the way it works. You drive the one car from 5 to 10 miles an hour by accelerating and decelerating, right? This is exactly what we're going to be doing with the lips in this case. Hello, my name is Charlie Porter, and I'm here today to talk with you about the embouchure, specifically the trumpet embouchure. So, before we actually discuss how to form the embouchure, we should define this word aperture. So, the aperture, if you're looking at a camera and the lens, you might know the aperture is that little part where the lens focuses in and then focuses out. And you can actually see it kind of closing and opening. Well, our aperture is not exactly like that. If you look at the aperture, on the embouchure of a trumpet player or a trombone player or any brass instrument, it's actually more of a line across that gets wider and thinner. And that line allows us to allow for more airflow or for less airflow. In fact, that's kind of takes me into another idea here that I want to talk about, which is the balancing of opposites. As a brass player, one of the things we're trying to do is promote airflow, but the other thing is resisting that airflow, not only to create vibration and get the lips closer together, but to get the speed of that vibration to be faster by speeding up the actual air. If we can kind of entertain an interesting analogy here, imagine a bar fight, kind of one of the kinds that you might see on a movie or TV show, where these two guys or gals are getting in a fight at a bar, and their friends start to pull them apart. And usually they're doing that so they won't fight, right? And then a bunch of words are said, but nothing happens. But in this case, with the lips, imagine the lips want to fight. They're coming together and they're trying to create vibration, right? But it's too much. It's to the point where actually no airflow is going to get through. So their friends start to pull them apart, but they're still able to just keep a little bit of a pinky fight happening, right? And that little bit of vibration, that's the kind of vibration that we actually want to have as brass players. We want to have just enough of that touching, just enough of that action between the lips, that fight, if you will. But the outside muscles, that's kind of like the friends pulling the lips apart. So you can see that there's actually two kind of actions that are taking place. There's that action right there. You heard that little squeak sound that I created there? That's me just squeezing the lips as tight as possible together in front of the teeth and kind of pushing some air through. Whereas the opposite of that would be this: lifting up with these muscles and pulling down with these muscles to completely get the lips out of the way. And in terms of what we're doing when we're playing a brass instrument, forming an embouchure, we're trying to actually capture the best of both of those worlds at the same time in one balanced setting, so that we're getting airflow and we're also getting the element of the lips coming together. One way that we can distill this in a way without using the mouthpiece is to kind of take those two elements. In fact, the way that Farkas, who I mentioned earlier, Philip Farkas, he mentioned in his book, The Art of Brass Playing, that there's a pucker and a smile element to what we do as brass players. So the pucker is this part right here. The orbicularis oris is this muscle surrounding here. It's probably one of the most important muscles in trumpet playing. And if we take that and we go like this, it is a sphincter muscle, like the ocular sphincter or the sphincter downstairs. And we know what those sphincters do. They close up by their very nature, right? That is going to give us a quote unquote pucker, as Farkas put it. And then the other muscles, the levator muscles up here, they lift the top lip, right? And these down here, these are called the depressor muscles, and they lower the bottom lip. For the top ones, you can kind of almost think of like a double Elvis Presley kind of, even though he's kind of old news at this point. If you've ever seen a video of Elvis, you'll see that he does this little wah-huh, right? So it's different than just lifting your nose up like this. But if you use these muscles the proper way, you'll see that they very easily lift the top lip up and they expose the teeth, right? Or vice versa down here. When we combine these together, Watch, I'll start with the pucker and I'll add these in. You see what's happening there? I'm getting a tautness across my face of that lip material. That is spelling the readiness for vibration that we need to have with these reeds that we call lips, right? So if I do that and I add some air into that equation, and if I just wet the lips a little bit, and that will help ease some of the friction there. That's another ingredient that we need as trumpet players with lips. They don't have to be slobbery wet, but the very center should have a little bit of moisture so that when the friction is happening between the two vibrating surfaces, it'll smooth that out and not create excessive vibration, right? So I'm going to do that same thing again. I'm going to pucker, and then I'm going to pull away. Think of creating a pucker and a smile, all right? So I'm going to do that first. Wet the lips, and I blow some air through. That might seem really easy the way I'm doing it. But maybe the first result that you get sounds something more like this. Now, if you look in the mirror when you're doing that, though, can you see what I'm doing wrong? Think of those three principles of vibration, right? We need stability and attachment. We need to have tautness, right? And we need to have an airway. Do my lips look very stable? Do they look taut, right? Does the airway look like it's full enough and open enough to support a beautiful, relaxed air column? I would say almost no to all three of those, right? So if we can structure this in a way where you can start to get even just a baseline, decent sounding buzz, I think you'll understand how this works a lot better without the crutch of this holding it together. And that in a nutshell is why I believe that lip buzzing can be a really great tool to teach us how to hold the lips without the mouthpiece. It's definitely not something that's necessary that everybody has to do all the time. It's a tool like many other tools where you can use it and understand it. And sometimes once you fix the issue, you can put the tool back in the toolbox and you don't need to use it anymore until the issue pops up again. So, for a little bit more detail on the actual buzzing itself with just the lips, some of you, this might be a brand new thing. You've never buzzed your lips before. I would say the thing you want to go for is just get a clear sound versus, right? Notice that if it sounds like that, I can almost mechanically change things here. Watch this. You see how that sound just got better by me actually physically with my hand pulling my lips apart. That points out a problem that was happening right there, was that the lips were too close together. That's almost always the problem that's happening if you hear distortion in the sound. It's that the lips are too close together. It's too much of a good thing, right? It's very rare that you hear this problem when somebody has a problem on the trumpet. It's just air. That can happen too, but that's usually because the lips, you probably guessed it, they're not close enough to actually make a vibration, right? So if you have a little bit more experience with buzzing, oftentimes people will say to me, well, Charlie, won't buzzing kind of make me get tight? Won't it make my sound get small? Yes, if you do it the wrong way. If you buzz with your lips tight, guess what it's going to promote in your trumpet playing? It's going to make you tight, and then your sound is going to be small. So if you notice here the space between my lips, I'm just going to buzz a note, and I'm going to buzz it in two different ways, right? Versus, can you hear the difference there? Versus, you can actually, if you look very closely, you can see physically I'm creating more space between the lips in the second example. In the first example, I have them just close enough, I'd say close enough to get the vibration, but too close to the point where it makes the vibration sound kind of tight. I could go closer and then this starts to happen. You hear the excess vibration now? We're getting distortion. If I go even closer, then we don't even have a pitch anymore. If I go even closer after that, we don't have sound. We don't have air. We have no vibration happening, right? So to recap one more time, instead of buzzing like this, where it's just open enough to kind of get a decent sound, try to open it up even more. When you do that, what you're going to be doing is really emphasizing airflow and de-emphasizing lips. And in fact, when I'm playing the trumpet, I really try to think more about air than anything. I know that lips play an important role, but I'm not going to do something with my lips that are going to inhibit my airflow, right? That's what we don't want to do with buzzing.